Hello, lovely people, and welcome back to the Wellness Way. And today I have another really exciting guest. I have Niraj Naik, and this is the man that I wake up with every morning, but we just won't tell his wife that. And why do I wake up with him? And why do I wake up with him? Because the first thing I have to do when I wake in the morning is the Soma Breathwork morning gratitude
Yeah,
meditation. And this has transformed my life. So it is a huge honor for me to have my
amazing.
bed partner here. Thank you so much, Niraj.
Beautiful. That's why my wife's used to it now.
I'm sure she is.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I want to take you back a number of years, right to the beginning, where you were a pharmacist.
Yes.
And before your health, and I know we will talk later about your health going out of control, but as a pharmacist, you realized that you were handing out a lot of drugs and people weren't getting better. And you went on a little bit of a journey with that, I believe. And um, you were doing something really beautiful when people came in, and you were kind of talking about lifestyle and food and everything that led you on a bit of a journey. Could you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, so I started working in the pharmacy and straight away I was like, what is this? It makes no sense. Like people are going away with shopping bags full of drugs. Like it doesn't seem correct. It didn't make much sense, like the way the system deals with health. And I thought I was in the healthcare profession, right? But it didn't seem that way when I started working. So over the years, I got really disillusioned with the job because a pharmacist's job is very robotic. Like you're literally all you're doing is putting labels on boxes, handing out pills. You have like 1 or 2 minutes with a patient. The whole system is just a mess. It doesn't work at all because you're really just working for drug companies. That's what it feels like. Just dishing out pills all day long, making sure people take them, and your job really is about actually, really as a pharmacist, if you're really following the code of ethics, is first do no harm. Every doctor's supposed to do that. Second, you're supposed to wean people off the drugs. You're not meant to get them hooked on more drugs. You know, the idea is
Mm.
to do the minimum, that you need medically to get them back to wellness, right?
And
So,
the
yeah.
problem is that all drugs have side effects. So you start on that, the first drug, and you go on to what I call the med tread, and
Yeah,
you're just more and more and more come
polypharmacy,
in.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
actually, you're even told by, the whole establishment that you want to try and minimize polypharmacy. You want to call out when the doctor's prescribing things that are unnecessary, right? And your job as a pharmacist is ethically to get your patient to have as least drugs as possible. So I followed that down to a T. Because what happened was I found like I needed another way to help the patients. And over the years, got so disillusioned. I actually had a bit of a breakdown myself, and a friend of mine took me to a Tony Robbins event for the first time.
the
And
brilliant Tony Robbins.
yeah, yeah, it was epic. And it was the first time I heard anyone who was super renegade talking about diet, nutrition, and even lifestyle things like breathing was a part of it. So I was like, wow, really? Okay. Well, I have a pharmacy full of sick people. I can put Tony Robbins to the test very quickly, see if he's full of shit or not. And so that's what I did. And I came up with a very simple analogy because that's one of the things Tony Robbins is really good at is using metaphors and analogies to make
Yeah,
quick, rapid
yeah.
changes in people. So you have like literally 2 minutes with the patient. So in that 2 minutes, you have to give them an inspiration, an education, and a motivation to take action to actually do something with their health, right? So,
I love
what?
that. Sorry,
Yeah,
can you just repeat that because that's cracking? And inspiration and motivation. What was that? You had three
inspiration,
things.
education. Your job it should be to inspire, educate, and motivate your patient to take action to do something to better their health. That's
Oh,
really
I
what you
love
should
that.
do. All
Love that.
pharmacists should follow that plan. That's what we teach our instructors. So to inspire, okay, the first thing I would do, because you've got 2 minutes, is tell story of somebody who came off meds, following a change in their lifestyle, right? And then people like kind of wake up a little bit, go, oh, that's interesting. And I'll be like, well, do you really want to be taking all this list of drugs? And most people, very few actually say, yes, I'm okay with this. Give me the pills and shut up. Some people, believe it or not, they're like that actually. They actually would literally be like, we're talking about, give me the pills. I've got to go.
Yeah.
I'm in a
No, a
rush.
lot of people are like
A
that I
lot
know.
of people actually were like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Doctor never said anything like this, that I could actually come off these pills. So I said, well, I gave up analogy, quick analogies. This is the education piece. Education and inspiration together is the car analogy, right? Like most people have put the wrong fuel into their engine of a car at least once. I've done it. I'm sure you may have done it.
I've
Put
done
diesel
it.
into petrol, right? So, or
Yeah.
petrol into diesel. And I'll be like, so what happens when you put the wrong fuel into your car? Like, how does it work? And he's like, or she's like, well, it kind of doesn't really run,
Doesn't.
right? You need to fix the engine usually or clean it out. So I'm like, well, imagine you're a super efficient bio engine. You've been putting the wrong fuel into a super bio engine for many years, and this is why now you're on all these pills. And we're like, that's interesting. So I said, well, do you want to know what the right fuel is? And like, well, isn't it like the ready meals that I buy from Asda?
Oh,
And I'm like, actually, no, here's what you should do. So now you have to literally motivate them. And the quickest way to motivate and get people to take action is simple information, bite-sized information, and literally clear instructions. So I would make my own prescription, but the prescription would be a diet, right? Food, a shopping list.
yeah.
So I'd say, right, this is what you're going to eat for a week, okay? And here's the ingredients, and go to shopping, go over to the supermarket. Usually it's Asda or Tesco or something like that. Buy this, and here's a link to some recipes like on YouTube. This was the early days of YouTube or a website to learn how to make it. So, and
That's
some of them were like
amazing.
just green juice, like people with diabetes. I just put them on a green juice, with lots of green veg,
Yep.
kind of a more of a
And you
raw
get your
diet.
easy water
Yeah,
from that. You get your easy
yeah,
water, which has been proven to
yeah,
change your whole, body
yeah,
and chemicals work
yeah.
out
So
in your
I
body.
would
So
generally what I boiled it all down to was the no factory diet. I came up with the no factory diet,
yeah.
right? So I would say to people like, "What's your favorite food? What do you love? And what do you eat?" So I'd figure out what do they eat in one day. And then I'd just say, well, here's a way to make what you just made. Because most people would eat processed foods, right?
Mm.
And jumble together maybe some stuff out of packets. I'll be like, well, what you just are eating here, which comes in a box, here's a way to make your own versions of it that's healthy. Try this. And literally just adding like a healthy kind of green juice thing for people who've got diabetes and weight problems, and then cutting out all factory foods, massive changes. Literally 1 week, 2 weeks, coming off, like the need for diabetic medication, for example. And I got so many people off like the medications, blood pressure medications, just by doing this. And doctors were calling me up, wondering like, "What are you doing? This is amazing. This is a miracle." I was like, "Well, come on." Like, to me, it's now common sense. But actually, I realized actually there's no education. So
No.
most doctors are clueless about actual diet and nutrition and its importance. Colostrum is the first food that we consume as babies. It's the most potent food that's ever created by nature, and it actually gives you your immune system and fixes the lining of the gut so you can digest adult food and normal milk, right? Which is essential for a child to grow and develop properly. So what happens is over the years, your gut lining may get destroyed by alcohol and processed foods and all this and stress and all that, and your gut microbiome can go off balance, and also generally your health can wear down, right, because of life and stress and all this. So what the Indian yogis discovered was that actually that bovine colostrum, cow's colostrum, you can use as a supplement later on in life, and even like for maybe when you're a baby and you're not getting enough mother's colostrum, it's an amazing substitute. It's the same translation into humans, and it has incredible healing benefits. It's full of growth factors, immunofactors, and the whole complete nutrition and amino acid spectrum that you need. And it's really potent for healing, especially the gut, right? So, so basically, the cow also makes 4 to 5 times the amount that the calf needs. So only a tiny bit is taken for human consumption, and it's so potent. It's 1,000 times more potent than human colostrum. And here's the thing: some children, or actually a lot of children, actually didn't get colostrum from their mum, and they were put straight onto
Onto a bottle.
bottle milk. So if you're not provided enough colostrum at a young age, this can lead to childhood infection and illnesses.
And
And
allergies and
yeah, and
skin
allergies.
conditions. And
Yeah,
we're seeing this more than ever in children now. They
exactly.
are being born sick,
Yeah,
a lot of them. And also this, you also get a big part of your gut biome through coming out of the vaginal canal when
correct.
you're born.
Yeah,
And, I'm sad to say that both of my children were C-section. The first one, not by choice, but we nearly lost both of us. So we had to.
yes,
But I believe we only nearly lost both of us because we were put under such stress
yes,
because I was made to have her earlier than she was ready to come
correct.
out of the womb.
Correct. This
Because
is the,
they
this is
told
it.
me that,
Yeah,
after 40 weeks, I had to be induced. And I joked that my eldest daughter took up squatters' rights and kind of went, no, fuck you, I'm not coming out yet, not ready. But they make you do this, and then you
correct.
lose your heartbeats, and they do these C-sections. And then I was too frightened to have a second C-section. So sadly, I was not able to give my children that gut biome, but I did breastfeed like
Good.
nothing on earth. So, I
Amazing.
tried to make up for it. And I didn't really know about this then, but I just knew that it should be, I hadn't started my healing journey. I wasn't sick then. So I just lived a normal life. And I'm really pissed off with myself actually that I've never used colostrum, and I don't know why, because I had leaky gut for years, and
Mm,
I healed it with cutting out all sugar, carbohydrates from my diet, alcohol. I had obviously given up medication completely after I had the tumor out of my throat, and I ended up
mm.
seeing 4 doctors in 4 days, saying, "Is it connected?" They don't know, so it's just like, okay, I'm giving up Western medicine. I'm going off to heal myself. But I
Yep.
never tried colostrum, and it's not really. It's breath work, cold water showers. All of this is out there. Colostrum isn't really
No,
yet,
I
is
know.
it?
I know. And it's such an amazing, versatile substance as well. Like you can make skin creams out of it. It rapidly heals like bruises and cuts, and it can get rid of scar tissue. Yeah, it's really
I
fascinating how
didn't.
it
I
works.
didn't know that.
So
I'd
many
only ever
uses.
thought of it for the gut.
Yeah,
So thank
like
thank
gum
you for that.
disease. If you get like
Oh
bleeding gums,
wow,
boom, rub it on. Do it a few times, a few days, and boom, it heals the gut, the gums as well.
that
So
is
it's
an
very
amazing tip.
versatile.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and you can add it. It tastes delicious. Like so, I then because I got so much benefit from it. Eventually, I create a whole system of self healing based on this colostrum, Ayurvedic lifestyles, reprogramming. Using special meditative tools and breathing techniques to get into altered states, and music. I went really back into my passion for music, and like then realized that you can combine music with breath work and pranayama techniques, which are often revolve around counting in rhythms, right? So, but music makes it so easy to count. So I
Okay,
started to make all this therapy with
I'm going
music.
I'm
Yeah,
going to tell you something. So I was
yeah.
never able to meditate because I am what is now known as ADHD. It just wasn't invented when I was a kid.
Mm,
But the first time I was ever able to meditate was in 2020 in the first lockdown. And a friend of mine put me in contact. She messaged me and she said, right, Soma Breathwork are doing a retreat. You've got to get on it. And I didn't know anything about you, but I had actually seen your work as the renegade pharmacist.
yeah.
So I recognized you the minute I got on Soma, and my kids were here and they were watching TV. And I said, come on, let's turn the TV off and do this Soma. Suzanne says it's really
Mm.
good. And they're going like, oh, fuck off. And so I went to my bedroom and I put you on. And I just remember this passion that you guys
Mm.
had, and there were lots of you on the retreat. There was you and Greg and Steve, but this passion. I see you've got "I Love My Life" t-shirt on,
Yeah,
and I
definitely
just
tune.
remember, yeah, I just remember standing in my bedroom going,
Yes,
and shaking and jumping up and down. And my children
amazing.
came up and burst into the bedroom and go, "God, are you all right, mother?" I go, "This is amazing." And I'm just
That's
jumping and
so funny.
jumping. And it
Cool.
was one of the most exhilarating moments of my life. It kind of went on a par with childbirth. And I
Wow,
the
that's pretty good.
reason that I love your morning gratitude meditation is the first thing you ask us to do is go back to that sheer bliss feeling, which
Yes.
for me was having my children. And just, I mean, I'm tingling now, just shaking. Anybody watching,
Wow.
just shake that body, shift your shit.
Yeah.
um, so, and the only time I have ever got out of my body on a meditation is with you guys,
Wow.
because that music keeps my
Mm,
ADHD brain
correct.
in check. So explain the rhythms for me, please, lovely,
Yeah.
on how this actually penetrates the body, because it's just insane.
Yeah, no, sure. So the beauty of music is that actually almost everyone passively meditates when they love a piece of music. They go into a state of single focus. They're just tuned into that sound and nothing else, right? That's meditation. It's bringing your mind away from the speaking part of the mind, the one that worries about the future, gets hung up on the past, judges, criticizes, and tries to compute everything around you. It quietens that down for a moment. This area of the brain is called the default mode network, and this is your brain's version of the ego, right? So when this is very active, okay, what happens is it creates tension in the body. So if you do this, if you just have your fingers like this and you then tighten them like this, create tension, and try and move them around, it hurts, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good, right? So this is how most
For
people are moving
For
through life.
anyone listening and not
Yeah,
watching, we're doing a kind of claw hand,
yeah,
a spider hand, whatever you want to call it, and just tensing the fingers and
that's right.
wiggling them, and it hurts.
It hurts when you do that, right? So
Yeah,
this is how most people are throughout life. Tense, rigid, and a little bit stuck, and so they don't move through life very easily, and it's painful. All right? So here's the thing. When you let go of this awareness of this monkey mind, right, and you move that awareness to something else, okay? It can be anything. It can be a light, it can be a TV program, it can be music, right? Just diverting attention from this, it lets go of tension because the monkey mind that worries all the time and is constantly speaking, there's a voice in your head, constantly judging, right, and squaring things up and getting hung up on things. That part of the mind creates tension. It creates a sympathetic response. Even when it's excited, right, about something, it creates tension in the body. And this going on and on and on for too long leads to chronic stress, and then you get all stiff and rigid like this. And when you get
and
stiff and rigid like this, it diminishes blood flow to your muscles and joints, okay, and
that
other
becomes
cells.
oxidated stress in the body, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it affects your breathing, you don't breathe properly, erratically, hyperventilate, and all this over breathing and reduced like blood flow to areas, this leads to cell degeneration, disease, okay? And that's
Yeah,
how we get disease, and that's how we age faster. That's why people are very stressed, constantly, mulling over stuff all day long, ruminating. They tend to age faster, okay? And over breathing, hyperventilation as well, breathing too fast, breathing through your mouth, bad breathing habits, breathing through your mouth during sleep and all this, also reduces blood flow and oxygenation of your body tissue cells. Okay, so all of this compounds together to make you age faster and cause pain. But when you learn to meditate correctly, it's just so easy, and music's one of the easiest ways because you can just tune your mind away from this voice in your head to a sound. It could even just be a meditation bowl that goes do, and you just tune into that sound, nothing but the sound. it actually releases that tension and you become less rigid, and then that fades away. But what we've done is we've combined this music experience with breathing patterns. So certain breathing patterns actually have a direct impact to the autonomic nervous system. Like I can show you a thing here with this pulse oximeter, how quickly I can influence my heart rate, okay, with just breathing. So what I'm going to, I want you to not worry about the oxygen levels for now, which is, if you
Okay.
read out the numbers, this is, my heart rate's 83 right now, right?
Yep. Yep.
Just focus on the heart rate. Forget about the oxygen levels. I'm going to show you how I can instantly affect my autonomic nervous system, all right? So just pay attention to that. I'm going to raise my heart rate up like a super yogi, up by 30 beats per minute, and then drop it down by 30 beats per minute, okay? So
Yep.
watch this. This is what is considered impossible by medical communities, scientific communities, that we don't have a power to tap into autonomic nervous system. You're going to see very clearly that it is. So, you ready?
Yep.
Shall I do it? Okay.
Wow.
You want to read it out?
106, 107, still going up. Wow. 116. What the fuck? 122. Oh my God. That is extraordinary. It's flashing at 122. It's now coming back down 119. And 135 it just flashed at. Oh my God, Niraj. Oh, I haven't tried this one. I've got to. And I know you're holding your breath. I can't talk to you. 119. It's coming down. So for those of you that are listening to this, please pop over to YouTube and have a look at this, because it is just fascinating. 111, 112. There, 112 still. 118, 124.
I think I might have broken the machine. Wait, one sec. Because I'm going to bring it back down now, right?
Yep, it's not reading at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes, it is 66, 72, 70. 68, 66. So you've just brought it right back down. 63, 62, 60, 58, 57, 56, 55. Oh my God, this is just extraordinary watching this. 53, 52. This is the power of breath work. 58, it's gone up a bit. It's just extraordinary.
Yeah, now it
To
should
watch.
be normal.
Yeah. So 58. And that, so
Yeah.
for those that are listening and not watching, can you just explain what you did to achieve that
Yeah.
experiment, please?
Well, I didn't do anything magic there. Everybody can do that. Influence their heart rate. And everyone's doing it all the time, right? Every time you breathe in, you stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. Every time you breathe out, you stimulate the parasympathetic. If you breathe in, clench your sphincter muscles and hold it and contract up, basically become very uptight, right? Up your own ass.
Yep.
You know that saying, right? And
Yep.
people do that. They get tense and they breathe in and they hold in and
Yep.
get stressed, right? That actually stimulates adrenaline, okay? And that raises the heart rate and blood pressure. But check this out. There's two types of activation of the sympathetic nervous system. There's negative stress, positive stress. In negative stress, you produce cortisol and adrenaline, and that contracts. It makes you paralyzed, freeze, right? Stop. But positive stress, you actually get adrenaline, but DHEA, and it expands and it makes you have courage and confidence, okay? And feel good and be exhilarated and euphoric. So you can, with the intention, you can actually activate the sympathetic nervous system in a positive way and create more like self-confidence, self-esteem and feeling of power, right?
Yep,
Which
yep.
is what we do at the end of the breath, with the breath hold in and go into Soma pose like this, holding your breath. But when you breathe out, you stimulate parasympathetic nervous system. And when you hold your breath after the exhale, you actually slow the heart rate down quite dramatically, okay? So what we do is special breathing practices that first is focused on rhythmic breathing. So breathing in for a certain length of time and breathing out for a certain length of time. When you breathe out, double the length of time as you breathe in, you start to stimulate the parasympathetic, right? So if you breathe in for say 2 beats, out for 4 beats, or in for 4, out for 8 beats, you start to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. That's that regular rhythmic breathing. And you'll start to feel very blissed out and relaxed after doing that for several minutes. If you do like larger volumes of air in and out than you normally do in normal breathing, that's called hyperventilation. So we're doing mild hyperventilation to breathe out in the beginning of a Soma breath session excess CO2. When you get rid of that excess CO2, it then allows you to hold your breath for longer. So when you hold your breath, that actually creates, after a time, a positive stress response in the body as you lower the oxygen for a brief period called intermittent hypoxia. Also, your heart rate will drop down, 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 down. And then we finish with a breathing in, a moment of sympathetic inspiration. All right, you feel inspired, you set your intention, and then we end with a hum. Hum. And that produces nitric oxide gas, which actually is antiviral, antibacterial, antimicrobial. It helps get oxygen to where it needs to go, and it's very healing gas. It's an
Okay.
amazing, it's an
So
important gas.
yeah, let's
Yeah.
talk about NO because it is so important. And I mention it in my book because in 1998, 3 pharmacologists got the Nobel Prize for discovering NO. And most people will have heard of nitric oxide, but you get it by the breath retention, but you also get it by breathing in through your nose, don't you?
Yes, nasal breathing and humming.
Nasal breathing
That's how we
and
produce
humming.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you
Um,
breathe through your mouth, you don't produce it. A lot of people breathe through their mouth all day long, right?
Yes, and most
Yeah.
people breathe through their mouth at night, which is why I know that Soma and all of us do our mouth taping. And
Yes.
I had Patrick McEwen from Oxygen
Yeah, he's
Advantage on the
great.
show, and we were talking about mouth taping, which
Yeah.
is
I'm a
you
big
spend
supporter of Buteyko
yeah.
method.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So I'm going to ask you a question here because I know that you're good friends with Wim Hof and you've worked with him. But Wim Hof, and I did, of course, I worked with Wim Hof again this year. I'm having a bloody marvelous year, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I love my life, but that's
Yeah.
because I say it every day. But Wim Hof very much is mouth breathing. And I find when I'm doing cold water therapy, so intermittent hypoxia and intermittent hypothermia are 2 of my daily essentials in the book. But I find that when I'm doing hypothermia, I do need to mouth breathe.
Okay.
So, can you explain to us the difference between your technique and Wim Hof's? That would be really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So first thing is about mouth breathing. So some, as we were talking about tension, right? All of this, like being stiff and all that, all the causes of tension. Mouth breathing is one of the primary causes of it because when you breathe through your mouth, you let go of a lot of CO2. If you hyperventilate, if you do those conscious connected breathing exercises where you're like, right, in and out for like an hour, you completely cramp up like this. So that's
Yeah.
actually an exaggerated version of what I'm talking about. Chronic mild hyperventilation causes rigidness, stiffness. Okay?
Now, I've actually had
Yeah.
that. I've had an adverse reaction, an ab react, and gone
Yeah.
into crab
Yeah,
claw.
that's normal for that
Yeah.
sort of technique. So the what the problem is oxygen. Oxygen causes constriction, right? CO2 causes dilation. So if you get rid of CO2, you have more oxygen in your bloodstream. It contracts everything, constricts everything, causes like this stressful feeling. Now, in some techniques, that's part of the technique because it's a way to release kind of unresolved emotions. Okay, it kind of creates a lot of tension to create a lot of release, right? It's like a way of
Yep.
controlled stress response, and it can be quite powerful. It can help, but some people it's going to cause a lot of harm, especially if they've been chronic mouth breathers a lot of their life. If they're creating more tension now through exaggerated form of mouth breathing, it can actually cause more harm than good. So it's not for everybody. However, in Wim's case, it's just for a short time, 20 breaths in and out, so it's controlled for a short period. And it's not meant to be a habit that you form throughout your day. It should just be used as a technique. Throughout your day, you should always use your nose. Now, what we do with Soma Breath is not one technique. Okay, so Wim's got that one technique. We have all these different techniques. There's a pharmacy of different techniques. Okay, and we've
Okay.
modified it by going back to the original pranayama tradition to create like where the emphasis is more on nasal breathing. The mouth breathing techniques are advanced, used for advanced sessions, like usually done with a trained instructor. But daily sessions that you can do every single day that's really good for your energy and fitness, they revolve around rhythmic breathing through your nose and out through your mouth. What that does is it creates the nitric oxide and it also slows the breath down. It reduces the volume of air so you're not hyperventilating so much. It creates a whole different feeling. You feel way more blissed out at the end of it. You don't get all that headachy, weird dizziness when you use the nose instead. And rhythmic harmonic breathing is a core foundation of yoga. So Wim's technique also, it helps generate a lot of heat in the body. So it's good for cold practices, like what you're
Yes.
saying.
Yep.
Whereas not everybody needs that. Like if you're just doing something throughout the day, you don't need to always be generating loads of heat, especially if you're a very fiery person already. In the Ayurvedic system, we're all different types of elements, and some people are air, others are fire, and others are kapha. So if you're already very fiery, it can create too much internal fire and not feel good.
Yeah.
But if
So
you're
for
very
people that,
airy, it can actually exaggerate the air inside. So not good for them. But kapha people who are very low metabolisms need more inner fire. They're the ones who are heavier set, tend to put on weight more easily. It can actually be a very good way, like the Wim Hof method, to activate the whole system and make you raise your metabolism. So that combination with ice baths is a very good weight loss tool. But what Soma Breath is really a pharmacy. So we're not just talking about one technique here. It's a whole range
it
and it's a
is.
whole holistic practice with many
And
different layers to it.
also part of your pharmacy, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, but I don't know that all of my audience know what it is, but you keep popping up Ayurvedic medicine. And you were just talking about kapha, and basically these are the doshas, the body types that we all
Yeah,
have. Uh, Ayurvedic medicine is extraordinary. It is known as the grandmother of all medicine. And in those practices, there were things that now are kind of cutting edge, like keto diet, fasting. Can you just run us through? Because I know that Ayurvedic is a very big part of Soma's philosophy. And you do these amazing retreats that I paid for my retreat a year ago, but I still haven't got to you. But I will one
right.
day,
I
Niraj.
hope so.
I'm going on retreat with you.
Nice.
So could you just talk us through a little bit about Ayurvedic medicine, please?
Yeah. So Ayurveda is all about understanding that we're all unique individual, and in my opinion, it's the perfect application of quantum science for healing and health and lifestyle. Okay, so it understands that we're all made of energy and different elements of energy, different states of energy. So Some people are more vata, which is air. Some people are more pitta, which is fire. Others are more kapha, which is earth and water, right? So basically, if you think that's like different states of energy, there's air, gas, there's fire, combustion, and then there's matter, right? So Vata people generally are more thin framed, they're very fast, quick, they move around a lot, and you're more of a Vata energy for sure, I think. And very creative, and they're kind of tapped into some ethereal space usually. The Pitta people are more fiery, they tend to be like the leaders, the entrepreneurs, the athletes, they're quite muscular build, right? They can basically digest anything, they have a lot of internal fire. Um, and then the Kapha tend to be the more happy, gentle, loving, larger than life people, and they tend to be bigger boned, put on weight more easily, have slower metabolisms, also think more slowly, but more carefully, right? But there's different characteristics under stress as well. So the Vata people under stress, they become very introverted. They can be very erratic. They can be forgetful and change their mind very quickly and make fast decisions that sometimes cause problems for them and others. The Pitta people generally are under fire, can become angry and even violent and bossy, right? The Kapha people under stress can become lazy, depressed and sulk and stay in the corner, right? And lose their jolly, friendly, family kind of vibe. So there's different characteristics under stress and different characteristics under when you're in your element. And the idea of Ayurveda is to find your element and live by it. And also know that you are always changing a little bit throughout your life. Okay?
Yes, and you can
Yeah.
actually have elements, little elements
That
of
mix, yes, of each.
mix.
We always have
Yeah.
an element of each, but we have a predominant one which stands out a bit
Yeah.
more. All right. I'm more Vata Pitta, like a mixture of the two. All right. So then you can actually find out, because there's patterns, what diseases you're going to be more likely to have, what your diet should be, how you should breathe, your mindset, even your career path can be figured out through this system. It's such a powerful, amazing system
It is
that,
so
that
powerful.
you can learn so much about yourself, and it's so accurate. It's incredible. So I really adhere to this. It really helped me when to figure out what I should eat when had ulcerative colitis. It was fascinating, and I realized why I was suffering and what I shouldn't do. So basically, one classic example is like at the time, raw vegan foods was like the panacea for everything, according to the mainstream kind of wellness community and magazines and all this. So when I had colitis, I went fully on raw vegan diet just because I thought this was what's going to cure me, and it made it 10 times worse, the
Yeah.
symptoms. And then I started to have just fruit and made it super
Oh,
bad, like so much gas and bloating I couldn't understand. So according to the Ayurvedic system, because Vata Pitta are more prone to ulcers in the colon when it goes off balance, you need to have a very grounding, warming diet, and even meats, things like beef and bone broths, are very healing for Vata types. So I was like, whoa. And then when I started to study people who already healed themselves from this naturally, I found there was a link there too where people switch fully to a more meat-based, kind of especially beef-based diet. And I was like, whoa, this throws off everything, the dogma of Hinduism where you're not meant to eat cows. And then I was like, wow, I'm going to have to go against my nature because I've not been eating beef until that point to see if it works. And it did. So I was like, well, okay, there's a lot of wisdom here. There's a lot of dogma as well, a lot of misconceptions with diet. But Ayurveda seems to have it set, like, it's sorted it out because of this not putting everybody under one bracket and
absolutely.
having, yeah,
I mean, I choose to be vegetarian apart from bone broth, but I know how good bone broth is for me,
yeah,
so I have it. But I do a live every week from Phyllis Kitchen
yeah.
at my house where I cook healthy, organic food from scratch and teach people how to
Nice.
cook.
It's like that's what I was doing in the pharmacy. I was giving people, most of the people I was working with were diabetic and overweight, obese, right? So the raw vegan diet for them was incredible. Like that's what I was pretty much doing, was making the food, having at least one meal a day, which is raw, which is the smoothie, right, the green juice smoothie, and then having a lot more salads and plants in their diet. So that works really well for them. But the Vata types, not so much. We waste away on that diet. Like we lose too much weight too quickly. So you need to adapt it, right? So, and actually the Vata types can have a bit more of the starchy carbs than Kapha. Kapha types will put on weight too quickly with that. So it's really understanding yourself, know thyself, and understand there's no one size fits all remedy for everybody. You know, like, so intermittent fasting, according to the Ayurvedic system, is not good for all energy types. So some energy types should eat little and often, usually the Vata types, little and often. The But fasting's really good for the more Kapha types, okay? Pitta types, if they go without food for too long, they get hangry and also produce too much fire in the belly, acid, and that can lead to stomach ulcers. So you got to be very careful, and you know, certain types of foods are really good to pacify the fire, like bio yogurts and dairy, even like milks can be really good for cooling foods. And so what the idea of Ayurveda is to find your element and live by it. That's really what it is. And that's actually
Beautiful.
yoga. That's
Yep,
actually
yep.
yoga too. Find your
Absolutely
that's
beautiful.
and all these are branches of yoga, Ayurveda, pranayama, they're all branches of yoga, traditional yoga, which is all about find out who you are, know thyself, and live by that. That's what it's
That's
about.
that's perfect. That's absolutely beautiful. I know that
Yeah.
we are nearly out of time. Um, I want to know why breathwork is not taught in every bloody school in the world when it is singularly the most important thing you can do for your health. And I believe it really is the most important thing you can do for your health. You know, if you live by, obviously not if you're you or Wim Hof, but if you live by the rule of three for most normal people, you can last 30 days without food, 3 days without water, 3 minutes without air. I know you and Wim Hof could go a lot further than that. But it is, you know, we've talked a bit about oxidative stress. We've talked about, you know, the blood in the body and NO, nitric oxide. Can you just run us through very quickly the BOA effect and the health benefits of the BOA
The
effect?
Bohr effect. Okay,
BOA
yes.
effect. I've
So
always called it BOA. BOA.
yeah, Bohr
That
effect.
told me.
Bohr.
Yeah, no, I
Christian
know how
Bohr,
to
yeah.
spell it. It's in my book.
Yeah, yeah. So the Bohr effect's named after the scientists who realized that CO2 is such an important gas because without the right CO2 levels, oxygen stays stuck to red blood cells and doesn't go into the body tissue cells, which is what you need, the organs, muscles, and things like that. So when we overbreathe, we hyperventilate. We already told you, you know, we get stiff, we get rigid, we feel this as pain, tension. And when we raise our internal CO2 levels, that tension fades away, right? You become more relaxed and you get more oxygen going into the blood cells, the body tissue cells. And here's the thing, most diseases arise as a result of poor body tissue oxygenation. So what my entire system's all about is raising CO2 tolerance, increasing your own production of nitric oxide, and living by your element so that you're more relaxed through life. You flow through life, that tension fades away, and you get really optimum oxygenation of the body. So you get less risk of things like oxidative stress and all this stuff that makes you age, right? And
Yeah.
one of the most important things about this is to make oxygen your friend because oxygen causes stress in the body. There's another scientist, right, who Helmut Caesar showed that oxidative stress is what makes us age, and it's very difficult to live without oxygen. It's also difficult to live with oxygen because of this oxidative stress. Oxygen, literally, the best analogy is to imagine every single cell in your body has tiny combustion engines. That's the mitochondria. Oxygen comes in, burns to produce ATP light energy. It's literally photonic light energy. That's why we're light bodies. So that combustion engine is just like a car engine. It's subject to wear and tear. But if you have an old, badly tuned engine that's not efficient at burning fuel and gas, you use a lot more fuel, get a lot more wear and tear, it breaks down quicker, right? That's like the old Fords, right? But finely tuned Tesla which is super efficient, right? Needs the minimum amount of energy and it runs forever and ever. Like those Japanese cars, they just run forever and ever, never break down. That's what we want to aim for. We want that. And that's what our Soma Breath system's designed to do. It's all about turning you into a Tesla, right? And making you breathe like a whale, okay? Because whales, they live the longest, right? 200 years plus. They hold their breath for like hours, right? And their
Mm.
breathing rates are like really slow. But most people are in the rat race, okay? The rats and mice, they breathe very fast, 150 breaths a minute, 300 breaths a minute, not efficient using oxygen. And they have a lot more oxidative stress because of that. And they live 1 or 2 years. But the naked mole rat
I was going to
is
say the mole rat
incredible.
has, yeah.
Yes, they live like 30 years plus, but they also don't get diseases. They die in old age. And what their amazing thing is that they live primarily underground, hypoxic environment, high CO2, low oxygen, and they don't get so much oxidative stress and they can hold their breath 18 minutes at a time. So
Wow.
humans, we have the choice. We can either be in the rat race or we can be like these majestic whales, right? Or elephants, wise elephants, right? And these turtles who slowly win the race, right? Every time. And just coast through life without, totally chilled, right? Without any stress. We can choose to be like that, right? It's a conscious choice because we have conscious ability to control our breath. That's what sets us apart from all the other animals. That
Yes.
conscious ability to control the breath. That changes everything, right? That's what sets us apart. So we can either go down the matrix educational system that educates us out of this ability and puts us in the rat race, or we can break the system, break the matrix, go and live like a Ganesha, the elephant, wise elephant in the jungle, and live for years and years and years, right? So that's what Soma Breath is about, is turning you into a conscious, controlling breather who takes control of their breath and takes control of their life.
I'm
That's it.
just that is so beautiful and so profound. And I just want to mention one of the last words that you use in the morning gratitude breathwork meditation, which is turn the impossible into I am possible. And
Yes.
that's what we all have the choice to do. You know, I've been there.